I'm going to give you guys a bit of a talk right now. I like to start the masterminds by going very deep into a topic that I believe will have the most and the biggest impact on your results, not only here this weekend, but overall as you're flying back home and as you're going to continue with your lives. Like, what is the one thing that I could talk about for the next 30 minutes that's going to change everything? And what we're going to discuss today is how to develop unshakable frame with women. How to develop unshakable frame. So if there's only one principle that will allow you guys to attract and keep high quality women in your life, it is frame control. Raise your hand if you've heard me talk about frame control, or kind of just mentioned the concept. Yeah. So let me give you guys an analogy for frame. Your frame is like a castle. Okay, imagine a castle like in Italy, one of those really grand, big castles. Huge castle built of stone, right? Solid foundation. That is a frame. Now, all of the principles that we've covered in our program so far are the rooms within that castle. So think about like this massive grand castle, and then you've got many different rooms, many different floors, many different nooks and crannies within that castle. So awareness, detachment, tension, intention, playfulness, groundedness, right? Connection even. All of these are the different rooms inside of this castle of frame, of having a strong masculine frame. Now, this castle is not a physical castle. It's an energetic castle. It's a metaphysical castle. So you can't physically see it, but you can feel it, you can sense it, and women can definitely sense it. Okay, does that make sense, this analogy of the castle? So every interaction that you guys have with a woman, picture this, is her exploring the different rooms of your castle. Every single one of you guys has a castle, has a frame. It could be a crumbled, tiny little castle, or it could be a strong, powerful, fortified castle that is unbreakable and unshakable. So when women meet you for the first time, they're poking around. They're walking inside. They're saying, how grounded is Leo? How assertive is Anurag? Right? How connected are you? How playful are you, right? They're exploring these different rooms. They're getting a feel for this castle. And then based on their experience in your castle, makes them decide if they want to proceed with you, if they're attracted, if they're repelled by you. All of this is happening on a very deep subconscious level. She's not consciously thinking about it. She does not have this analogy in her head. It is literally her unconscious biological mind just intuitively showing her yes or no. Either she's getting the ick or she's getting that pull, that feeling of desire and arousal when she's with you, okay? She's exploring that castle. So why is frame so important? Why is this the thing that we're going to be talking about out of all the different concepts, principles that we could cover? Because at the end of the day, we as guys are hyper visual, right? So when we see a beautiful girl, whether it's at a bar, at a hotel, on the street, what do? We look up and down, right? We glance at her. We look at her boobs. We look at her curves. We look at her face. We look at her eyes, her lips, her hair, right? Her skin. Like, we really take her in. But we take her in physically first. Of course, there's more that comes, right? When we date her, when we get to know her, we get to know her personality. We get to know her mood, her tendencies. But at first, I'm going to be honest. Like, I like very attractive women. If a woman visually is not very stimulating for me, she's not even going to be noticed. But for women, women are emotional. They're not physically stimulated. They're emotionally stimulated. Why? Because they need safety. They need comfort. They need to feel protected. They need to feel like they're with a guy that's a leader, that's going to be able to be a good husband, a good father, who's going to be able to handle difficulty when things come up in life. So she's screening you energetically, not physically, first and foremost. And that's why frame matters. And that's why frame is the thing that she's assessing you on. But here's the caveat. It's easy to look at someone visually and be like, this girl has nice boobs, right? Or this girl has a beautiful face. You can see it right like this in a second. But with frame, it's not so obvious. Because as I mentioned, it's not something you could see, it's something that you sense, that women feel. That's why attraction for women works differently. Like we get attracted really quick. We see a girl at a gym, pink yoga pants, right, squatting, you know, just the perfect body, and it's like, that's it, where it's done, it's game over. We want to talk to her. But with women, it's different, right? They could see a guy who's fit, and there's a little bit of curiosity, but it's not in any ways the same level of pull and attraction that we feel for beautiful women, because they need to explore your castle first. They need to explore, who is this guy? Is he grounded? Does he have an open heart? Is he able to care for me? Is he dominant? Is he needy? Is he creepy? Is he weird? Is he in his head? Like they need to explore your frame. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's why attraction is like a slow burn for them. It's a stove that very slowly turns on and heats up. Once it's hot, it gets really hot though, right? Once they're into you, they're really into you. And by the way, this doesn't work for like just a certain type of woman. This is something that applies to all women universally, whether you're in Europe, in Asia, in Latin America, in the US, right? There's different cultural differences, different styles of communication, but frame is a universal principle. If you have a strong frame, you have a fucking strong frame, right? You're just attractive universally to women, no matter where you go. I mean, think about guys like James Bond, right? The movie character. You could pick James Bond up, you could put him anywhere you want, he's gonna have success. Would you guys agree with that? Right? Because he has that frame. He's cool, he's charismatic, he's confident, he's detached. Women can feel it. Okay, so we talked about why frame is so important, right? Let's talk about what frame really is. Okay, what frame really is. What do you guys think frame is? Like if you could define frame, what do you think it is? One sentence.
Mindset.
Okay, mindset. What do you think?
Steadiness.
Steadiness. Okay, what do you think frame is? One sentence.
Universal ability to be in control. That's the frame.
Okay, what do you think, Federico?
The whole structure around it.
The structure around it, but in relation to dating, what is the frame?
Oh, well, the fundamental to attract.
Okay.
Non-reactive.
So these, I mean, you guys are like close. You're talking about, I think you're actually the closest, Leo, out of everybody, because you said mindset, but you guys are talking about the different rooms inside of that frame, inside of that castle. What is actually frame, right? Because frame, by the way, isn't just a dating topic. It is something that I studied in sales. It's something that I studied in as an entrepreneur, right? In negotiation. Frame applies to everything. Every social interaction has this principle of frame woven into it. And frame, when it comes to dating specifically, is your belief in relation to the women that you are meeting and dating. So your belief about yourself in relation to the women that you're dating, right? Your frame, in other words, is the story you tell yourself. Everybody tells themselves a story. Everybody. You tell yourself a story that is totally unique. You tell yourself a story. You do, everybody. I do. So do women, right? Like the women that you guys want to be meeting, like the girl at the airport, she's got her own story that she tells herself about her value, about approaching, about dating, about the types of guys she wants to date, doesn't want to date, what's cool, what's high value, what's low value. Like she's got her own set of mindsets and beliefs. And the key to understand here is that when you meet a woman, it is essentially your set of beliefs interacting with her set of beliefs. And there's like a bit of a frame battle that's happening. There's a collision of frames. And the stronger frame always absorbs the weaker frame. Okay, the stronger frame always absorbs the weaker frame. But tying this back real quick to you guys, most guys, Elliot, you could open it. Most guys have really, really disempowering beliefs. really disempowering stories, right? Beliefs like, I'm not enough, I'm never going to get the women that I want. Stories like, women are super guarded these days, dating is hard, women are materialistic, right? Women in LA or Miami are this way, women in New York are that way. I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out, right? Right? So every woman has her story, you have your story, but I just want to ask you guys for a second, don't answer me, right? But just think to yourself, are the stories you tell yourself about your own value in the dating marketplace, about what you bring to women, what you offer to women, about just overall dating in general, are they empowering you or are they disempowering you? Just take a moment, right? And just ask yourself and be honest. Maybe it's 50-50, right? Maybe you've got some good beliefs, maybe you've got some other really negative beliefs. But the game is not won out there in the field when you're talking to women. The reality is the game is won up here in your own mind before you even approach. Make sense? Because the story you tell yourself is going to dictate everything. Okay, it's going to dictate the tone of your voice. It's going to dictate the eye contact you make, right? How relaxed it is. It's going to dictate the way that you speak, what you talk about, how bold you are, how assertive you are, right? As I said, the frame, the analogy I was giving them is that it's a castle. Your frame is a castle. And all the principles that we talk about are different rooms within that castle. And if the frame is strong, it means that the rooms are there, right? That these rooms are solidified within that castle. But what happens if, like, let's say there's a castle and there was a bunch of mold growing inside of that castle, right? There's leaks inside of that castle. What's going to happen to the castle? It's going to break, right? It's going to be infiltrated. That's what happens. So essentially, negative beliefs, negative stories are like basically enemies living within that castle, right? It's mold, rats living within that castle. So that's why I want you guys to take this very, very seriously. And to touch on this, right? What does it really do for you when you have a strong frame? I mean, when you really have a strong frame, you are unstoppable, right? Women get super attracted to you. You have complete abundance. Women chase you. Women even fight over you. I've experienced that. Like, that literally happens when you have a strong frame. Because most guys don't. It's very rare for women to meet a guy that's like really like in his power. When you have a weak frame, what happens? You get disrespected, you push women away, you become a sugar daddy, right? Because you're now compensating with throwing money at them, buying them gifts, because you're not attracting them energetically, you're attracting them financially. You're overcompensating for internal blind spots, right? And dating is just really fucking hard. So most issues that you guys have in dating are actually frame control issues. They're frame issues, right? And we'll talk about how to develop this frame. You'll see that there's 3 components to it, but they're usually frame issues. And I'll say this before we talk about how to develop the frame, how to develop a really powerful frame, is when you guys realize your actual value as a man, you become dangerous. Like, that's where the switch really flips, is when you really understand your value. And you don't understand it just intellectually, you can feel your value. You can feel your power. Make sense? That's when everything changes. It's not enough to just in your head be like, well, you know, I'm a good guy, I'm successful, I make good money, I have a lot to offer, but then have a bunch of anxiety and shame and stress and negativity in your body. No. Like, you need to fucking feel your power. When you feel your power, women feel your power. Okay? Because it's a universal law, it's a spiritual law of state transfer. What you feel is what they feel. You feel neediness and anxiety, they feel neediness and anxiety. You feel confidence, they feel safety, right? It's just transferred. It happens like that. It's a mirror principle, okay? So how do we develop this frame? because having this frame, this unshakable frame, is the number one thing that you're going to need to develop to have success with the quality of women you want, right? You guys aren't here because you want to just date like some random girl that's like a 4 in your book in Tinder, right? You want to get like the really high quality women. And to get those types of women, you need to have powerful frame, right? It's not enough to just have money. It's not enough to be good looking. It's not enough to be fit. It's not even enough to like have like a good following and status. Elliot, can you pop the door open? You need to have frame. That's what it really comes down to. It comes down to frame. Okay? Because when you can develop this, you're literally, this is what women fantasize about, is they get aroused by guys that have frame, right? Guys that can say not happening to them, that could challenge them, that could hold boundaries with them, that can walk away when they feel like there is an alignment in their communication, that are able to be really direct with women about what they want, that could take the lead. Like, this is what excites women, right? If you guys look at some of the movies that women are the most turned on by and excited by, like 50 Shades of Grey, right? Who's seen 50 Shades of Grey, right? If you look at the way that the main character, Christian Grey, how he carries himself, how he operates, like that's such a good example of frame control. You could feel it, like the girl's literally melting into his frame, right? At first, right, if you guys read the story and you know the movie, like she wasn't all about that whole world, but she melted into his frame because he just had such a strong frame. It's the same thing.
Kind of it.
We'll touch on it once we're done. I'll answer questions. So how do we develop frame? Who wants to know how to do that? You guys want to learn how to do that? Okay, cool. It took me a while to figure this out. A lot of just like banging my head against the wall. There are 3 elements to this, okay? The first element is a spiritual element to frame. As I said, frame is not a simply physical concept. It's a energetic concept. So spiritually, how do we develop this frame? Step 1 is you have to be able to feel what you feel. So that's why we have such a big emphasis on emotional awareness. It's not by accident, guys, that I'm starting the course, a dating course, right? A dating, how to attract high quality women course with meditation. I mean, some of you guys probably came into this and were like, where even am I? Like, I didn't sign up for like a Vipassana retreat. I signed up to learn how to get hot women, right? But why do we start off with emotional awareness? Because the foundation, the bedrock to this castle is awareness of how you feel. Okay, awareness of how you feel. Awareness of, in real time, being able to know what you feel around beautiful women. Most guys don't know what they feel around beautiful women, right? They walk up to women, they're completely in their head, they're disconnected from their body, and they have no frame because of that, right? When you're in your head, you're basically just like a balloon in the wind, right? Floating around. What do I say? How do I get her to like me, right? That's the kind of vibe that you have when you're in your head. When you're in your body, you're actually connected to who you are, right? You know what you feel. You know if you're attracted or not. It sounds so ridiculously simple, but how can you impact her with your emotions if you don't know what your emotions are? How can you build sexual tension with her? How can you flirt with her if you don't feel this energy of wanting to flirt in your body, right? How can you tell her, hey, I don't like when you do that, if you can't even feel anger in your body because you're that numb, right? How can you be vulnerable with her and tell her that something she said brings up sadness in you, right? How can you connect heart to heart if you don't even know that you feel sad? So that's why the foundation to all of this is feeling what you feel. And the question I want to ask you guys, and this is going to be a big focus for the weekend, is when you talk to women, where is your focus? Or in other words, where is your awareness or your consciousness? Is it in your head? Is it focused on how do I say the right thing? How do I not get rejected? How do I not make a bad impression? How do I not be judged by people watching me talk to her? Or is it on what am I feeling? Like, what's really happening for me in my body? Once you guys could shift from controlling her state of mind and trying to figure out what you need to do for her to like you to just, okay, cool. I'm talking to this girl. She's hot. Let's see what I feel around her. Right? What's going on in my belly? All right. Like I noticed that she's kind of moving a little closer to me. She's playing with her hair. Like, how does that make me feel? Most guys never ask that question. Like, how does that feel in my dick? How does that feel in my legs? How does that feel in my stomach? Right? We want to know what we feel in our body. Without that, you're cooked. You have no chance. Okay? Without that, you're just a dancing monkey, a performer. Make sense? Okay, cool. And I spent, by the way, the majority of my dating journey, like the first 4 years, literally, like I thought that the dating advice online was correct. Like I didn't have anybody tell me otherwise. Like I would watch Mystery, I would watch the guy with the orange hair, like you guys know who I'm talking about. I would watch a lot of different people and they're all like, this is a tactic that works. Right? Being self-amusing works, or being cocky funny works, or being this way works. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to put on the self-amusement hat today when I go out to the bar. Okay, I'm going to put on this cocky asshole hat when I go to the bar. Rejection, 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 rejection. Why? I'm incongruent. I'm disconnected. I'm uncalibrated. Right? I'm being somebody completely different. I don't even know who I am. Right? I didn't know who I am for most of my life. I was just like, who do I need to be? Who relates to that, by the way? It's what we're talking about, is not even really knowing who you are. Like kind of having an image of, I kind of know who I am, right? I'm a business owner, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a dentist, or whatever, right? Or a real estate agent, but like, do you really know who you are? Like, can you feel your own sense of self when you talk to women? You need to feel that. Principle number 2 to building frame, the social component. Okay, the social component. The ability to actually express what you feel. Not enough to know what you feel. You need to also be able to express what you feel to hold frame. Because frame, yes, it starts inside. It starts with your stories and beliefs about yourself, but it's also projected through your mouth in your communication. Right? And it's not just what you say, it's what you don't say. It's how slowly you talk. It's the tone of your voice. Like all of this goes into frame. So the best way I can put it is, we talked about week 2 in the course, honest expression, right? Being aware of what you feel, having the courage to actually share what you feel. And then 3 is being detached from the reaction of the girl. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a really good example, okay? Because there's many ways that you can communicate how you feel. But personally, I have a girlfriend now, okay? I'm in a relationship. Met her through Cold Approach, right? It's been amazing. And something that came up for us, this was recently, a couple weeks ago, she works at a restaurant as a hostess here in Miami. She was approached by a woman who works in the nightlife industry. Those of you guys who live in Miami, you know nightlife is really big here. And women are a scarce commodity, like very beautiful women, right? You go to Club Live, right? You go to Club 11, you go to these different clubs, like they want beautiful women there, right? At bottle service, at tables, kind of at the front of the clubs, a restaurant. So she got this offer to work there that paid more than where she currently works. And we're FaceTiming, right? And she goes, hey, Daniel, I'm so excited. I got this opportunity, blah, 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 blah. And I just pause, right? My immediate reaction was to freak out inside, right? Like I'm anxious. I'm having all these visuals of guys approaching her, getting her number, right? Guys on private jets, swooping in, flying her to flying her to Monaco, I'm having all these visuals coming up. Just Ferrari after Ferrari pulling up. And I pause, right? Because principle number 1, I feel the impact of her words on me. I felt the nervousness. I felt the insecurity. I felt the fear in my body when she expressed that. And I didn't react, right? Most guys react, right? They either get controlling, they're like, no, Or they're like, oh, it's okay, right? Not a big deal, right? That they people please. So what did I do? I just got curious. I was like, hey, I'm happy for you. What about this opportunity excites you, right? So I got curious. She starts sharing. She starts opening up. Once she finishes talking, I tell her, look, I got some emotions that I'm feeling. I want to express them to you, right? And this is pillar 2, right? So I literally tell her, hey, I got to be honest, I'm not comfortable with you doing this. Right? I'm cool with you doing whatever you've been doing, but I'm not comfortable because, one, you're going to be in an environment that has drugs, alcohol, right? It's got, other stuff going on, and I feel like this is going to hurt our relationship. She understands, right? She understands, and she doesn't take the job. So that is a really strong example of frame. But it's not the only example of frame, right? It's not just about setting boundaries. It's about, even when you guys approach a girl, telling her, like we tell you, hey, I feel this in my body, but I wanted to come talk to you, right? These are my intentions. And being direct, being clear about that. That is all part of frame control, okay? Make sense, guys? Makes sense, cool. So, and by the way, this applies not just, as I said, first when you meet a girl, it applies if you guys want to get married one day or have a relationship, like every single interaction is a frame control battle. I wouldn't obsess about that though, right? You don't want to be thinking, okay, this is a battle, this is a war that's happening, but you do want to be aware that there is a collision of your beliefs versus her beliefs happening all the time. So don't get preoccupied with that, right? Don't obsess about, okay, I need to go into war mode right now, right? But just be aware of it, that this is something that happens, and that if you guys are not aware of it, you're going to get destroyed, right? You're going to get walked all over, you're going to get disrespected, and frame is extremely important. If you're not aware of the castle, how can you build the freaking castle, right? If you don't know that you need to build a castle, how are you ever going to build it? Okay? So before I talk about pillar number 3, and we're going to go really deep into this tomorrow. This is already, if you guys have pillar 1, pillar 2 down, you're already ahead of 90% of guys. Before we talk about pillar 3, which is the deepest, there are 3 levels to having frame.
Can you repeat the pillar 1 and 2?
Feeling your feelings, so embodiment, being in your body. Pillar 2 is honest, direct communication, right? Being able to express what you feel, what your intentions are. Pillar 3 we'll talk about in a sec, but let's talk about the levels of frame, okay? Level 1, you have no frame, or a very weak frame, right? You guys all know the term simp, right? That is an example of no frame. I have no value, she has all the value, I'm just gonna look up at her and worship her. That's no frame. And that happens many, many, many different ways, right? You could even be super successful and you could have no frame. You could have a lot of frame in business, right? You could be a multi-millionaire hedge fund manager, but in dating have no frame, right? It doesn't matter. Level 2 is what I call tactical frame, right? This is frame that you know about it, you're trying to kind of hold it, but it's not totally effortless, right? It's something that you're having to put force into. You're having to really think about. It's very conscious. I was here for a long time. And that's much better, right, than no frame, right? Because then at least you can you'll slip up sometimes, but at least you can set boundaries. You can take a moment when a girl says something that doesn't feel right with you, you can call her out. Sometimes you slip up, sometimes you get it right. So level 1, no frame. You have you're just completely reactive and in the other person's world. Level 2 is where you're still somewhat in their world, but there's a little bit of a contact with what you want and what you feel. And you're able to consciously, through effort, set boundaries, express things. But the highest level is where it's at your being level, right? Like we talk about avoiding, doing, being. The highest point of frame is where it's automatic. You don't think about it, right? You don't really think about it. It's just, hey, I like that. I want that. I don't like that, right? At a very, very, very deep level, It's just in your being. It comes out of you. And that's what women feel. So what I've noticed just from a lot of work that I've had with clients, with my own journey, is that when you're at the lowest level of frame, this is when you get no results basically with women. And when you do have a woman in your life, she just destroys everything, right? You get completely wrecked. When you hear stories about crazy divorces, guys getting cheated on, right? Guys walking in on their wives with some other guy in bed, like this, these are all, it sounds really bad. And you know, I take calls with guys like that all day long. So I know, I've heard the craziest stories. To me, it's actually the guy's fault. It sounds bad, but it's really the guy's fault because the guy never developed frame. If he would have had strong frame, or at least somewhat moderate frame, that would have never happened. There were probably thousands of mistakes that he made in his relationship that led to that happening, right? A woman doesn't just go and do that. There were thousands of micro moments where he let her command him, disrespect him, ridicule him, didn't say anything, didn't challenge her, didn't hold his ground. And ultimately it came crashing down. You guys see that? Yep. So it doesn't happen, right? I mean, like, I'm here to help you guys. I love helping you guys. I'm all about helping men. But at the end of the day, like, I also want you guys to take accountability, that it's on you to take care of this. It's completely on you. So level 2, right, is where you're conscious of this frame. This is where you're going to get tested a lot, right? If you guys ever get tested by girls, like, do you do this all the time, right? Things like that. Just test it. This is because they feel like there is some confidence to you, but it's not totally concrete. When you reach the highest level and when it's totally automatic, I mean, do you think James Bond is going to get tested a lot by women? No, right? Like, there are certain guys that just don't really get tested, right? It's just, there's just so much authenticity to the way that they're being that, like, women they just know, right? Like, they just, the same way that you see a girl that you're like, okay, that's a 10. Same way women see a guy that just has like a rock solid castle. And they're like, okay, he's just it, right? So the final pillar to this actually goes back to your childhood, okay? It's psychological. It's your self-esteem. That's the deepest layer of frame, is what I call the strong sense of self. It's rooted in your childhood. It's based on the way that you were raised, the way that you interacted with your family. And that's what we're going to talk a lot more about tomorrow, okay? So for the focus of today, for the focus of all the work we're doing this weekend, Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 already is going to give you guys a massive transformation. And that's what we're going to be working on today with the models, what we're going to be working on with approaching. 2 things, okay? Can you feel what you feel? Like, really feel what you feel? And can you actually have the balls to express what you feel without attachment to outcome? And start going for what you want. Start taking action. Start approaching. That's also part of frame, right? When you're not approaching girls because you don't want to be weird or because you're scared, that's you in their frame, right? You're in their frame before you even started a conversation. By you approaching, you are in your own frame.